May 16, 2025. It was a quiet and humid Friday night just west of the Appalachian Mountains in eastern Kentucky. Laurel County residents Paul and Gail Klein were sitting in their living room, quietly watching TV when tornado sirens blared across the TV screen and on their phones. Miles away, a ghostly, violent tornado was ripping its way through the heart of eastern Kentucky, and its path was aimed directly for the Kleins' residence. With only minutes to react, the couple sprinted to their bedroom and clung to one another for dear life, fearing it could be their final moments together. In an instant, the violent tornado struck their home with winds up to 170 miles per hour and threw debris which severed one arm on each of them. Even through the constant barrage of debris, the couple maintained their embrace. In the end, the Kleins had each lost an arm to the tornado, but miraculously were still alive. In under 90 minutes, this violent ef4 tornado with winds up to 170 miles per hour ripped a nearly mile-wide path through Gloucester Ridge, Somerset, and London, Kentucky, leveling thousands of homes, claiming 19 lives, and becoming the deadliest tornado in eastern Kentucky's history. Days before the 16th, forecasters took note of a possibly widespread severe weather day incoming. The first note of the potential severe weather on the 16th by the SPC was the Day 5 outlook issued on May 12th, which indicated a 15% risk throughout parts of the central U.S. For the next 3 days, the slight/15% risk was maintained. Then, on the Day 2 outlook, an enhanced risk for severe weather was introduced, with the first note of significant tornadoes. At this point, the storm mode was still uncertain, which led to more conservative forecasts being issued. Storm mode is extremely important in severe weather forecasting due to the different impacts that different storm types can have. For example, a more linear mode usually causes more widespread wind events with less hail and strong tornado potential, while a more isolated threat can cause more significant hail and tornado threat. However, by the next outlook, it became more evident that the storm mode would be isolated, and thus more conducive for significant tornadoes, and a moderate risk was issued. As the 16th neared even closer, it became even more evident that the meteorological setup was nearly a perfect recipe for a widespread tornado outbreak across the Ohio Valley. A powerful upper-level shortwave moved across the upper Midwest, causing height falls and strengthening winds aloft to 70 to 80 knots by evening. These height falls, in conjunction with the cold front, allowed for ample forcing and lift to initiate storms. To put it simply, lift triggers upward air motion and sparks storm development. So, the potent upper-level shortwave combined with the surface cold front provided the necessary lift to initiate explosive thunderstorms across the region. This powerful shortwave and the strengthening winds aloft allowed for ample wind shear to sustain storms. Shear is the change in wind speed and direction with height, which organizes thunderstorms into rotating supercells. Deep layer shear reached nearly 65 to 70 knots, with storm relative helicity values over 400, creating a textbook environment for significant tornado formation. The exit region of a nearly 125-knot jet stream further enhanced the environment for severe storms. At the surface, a low-pressure system with a trailing cold front clashed with warm, moist air from the Gulf, with dew points in the 70s fueling instability. This warm, moist air acts as fuel for thunderstorms. These dew points in the lower to mid-70s, drawn from the Gulf, provided ample moisture, enhancing atmospheric instability. The significant tornado parameter, or STP, peaked at 9, and mid-level lapse rates exceeded 8 degrees Celsius. Lapse rates are important to severe weather potential because the steeper the lapse rates, the more unstable the atmosphere can become. In addition, CAPE values surged to 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram due to extensive clearing and steep lapse rates. CAPE, or convective available potential energy, is the measurement of instability in the atmosphere that is needed to produce potent severe thunderstorms. The Storm Prediction Center then issued a moderate risk for severe weather on May 15th, highlighting a 50% chance of significant tornadoes, ef2 or greater, and a 45% chance of very large hail and damaging winds. As the 16th neared closer, the models continued to show a devastating potential.
What if every purchase was an investment in your business? With Capital One business cards, you can...
As the 16th neared closer, the models continued to show a devastating potential. May 16th began with warm, humid conditions across Kentucky. Temperatures reached the mid-80s and dew points hovered in the lower to mid-70s, creating a muggy and very unstable air mass. It was evident by late morning that the environment was setting up for disaster. By early afternoon, meteorologists at the National Weather Service office in Jackson, Kentucky were on high alert despite staffing shortages, as reported by the Washington Post. However, even with these staffing shortages, lead meteorologist Christian Castle ensured that the office was fully staffed, stating, "If there's weather, we're staffed. Failure is not an option." The SPC maintained the moderate risk outlook and confirmed the potential for a widespread severe weather outbreak. By late afternoon, storms fired in southern Missouri and Illinois, organizing into supercells as they moved eastward into Kentucky. By 6 p.m., supercells had erupted across the region, fueled by the extreme instability and shear. These storms produced large hail and early tornadoes in neighboring states. According to National Weather Service Paducah, some of these hailstones were nearly 4 inches in diameter and were extremely close to the state hail record sizes. The largest documented hailstone on record in the Paducah 58 county forecast area was 4.5 inches in diameter, set in Todd County back in May of 1995. Additionally, numerous significant tornadoes such as the Marion, Illinois ef4 with winds up to 190 miles per hour and the St. Louis, Missouri ef3, which caused a staggering $1.6 billion in damage, had already occurred earlier in the day before the Kentucky storms even fired. As the boundary that had fired these previous storms continued eastward, new convection, including potent isolated supercells, rapidly fired. And by 7:15 p.m., a tornado watch was issued for all of eastern Kentucky. At around this time, a lone supercell fired in southwestern Kentucky, heading straight for an extremely potent environment. This supercell tracked nearly the entire state of Kentucky without producing any tornadoes. However, as the low-level jet began to kick in, the supercell became tornadic. The low-level jet, or LLJ, commonly kicks in the late evening hours and can rapidly cause potent supercells to become much more conducive for tornadoes due to greatly increased low-level shear. At this point, it was only a matter of time before the storm produced its first tornado. At 10:27 p.m. near Whittle and Russell County, the tornado touched down along Kentucky 619, initially rated ef1 before rapidly intensifying. The tornado then moved eastward and partially removed a roof off of a home and an outbuilding as it moved east-northeastward and crossed Kentucky 76 before rapidly intensifying to high-end ef2 intensity. Here, the tornado significantly debarked hardwood trees and destroyed mobile homes and a camper. The tornado then continued east and strengthened to low-end ef3 intensity as it crossed Glosser Ridge Road. Here, a one-story brick home had its exterior walls destroyed, several trees nearby were snapped and uprooted, and another home nearby sustained minor roof damage. Then, the tornado intensified rapidly as it crossed into Pulaski County. Here, the tornado caused heavy roof damage to homes and snapped trees and power poles before crossing Fishing Creek and strengthening as it came down a steep hillside and struck the southern side of Somerset. Here, numerous pictures and videos showcase the tornado's eerie appearance and significant strength. Numerous businesses along US 27 suffered heavy damage, with rooftops torn off and walls completely destroyed. The Somerset-Pulaski County Rescue Squad building was severely damaged, though no one was inside. The South Kentucky Rural Electric Cooperative Corporation headquarters also faced significant damage, with nearly all of their associated buildings being obliterated. An unnamed Somerset resident shared, "I heard the sirens and went to the basement with my family. We could hear the wind howling, and then it was quiet. We came out, and our house was gone, but we were safe." The tornado then continued eastward and moved through the Daniel Boone National Forest, reaching its peak width of just under 1 mile wide as it moved through the forest and into Laurel County. As evident with the satellite imagery in the days after the tornado, a mile-wide path through Daniel Boone National Forest was decimated by an extremely violent tornado. The tornado then intensified to low-end ef4 intensity for the first time, northeast of the community of Mount Victory. Here, a one-story home along Poplarville Road was leveled and swept from its foundation at 170 miles per hour. Additionally, several trees behind the home were extensively debarked and stubbed. The strengthening tornado then exited the forest and began impacting large residential areas south of London. Just before crossing I-75, the tornado became violent and obliterated the Sunshine Hills subdivision at ef4 intensity with winds up to 170 miles per hour once again. The Sunshine Hills neighborhood in London was obliterated, with homes wiped clean from their foundations. 17 of the 19 fatalities in the tornado occurred here, including a husband and wife. 17 of the 19 fatalities in the tornado occurred here, including a husband and wife. Sarah Lee, a mother of two, recounted, "We were in the living room when the power went out. I grabbed my kids and ran to the bathroom. The roof was gone, and we were soaked, but we were alive." Here, Paul and Gail Klein's home was impacted by the tornado. Holding each other as the tornado hit, they each lost an arm when their home was destroyed. "We thought we were going to die, but we held on," Gail told reporters later. The tornado then continued eastward and caused damage at the London Corman Airport, including airplanes and a medical helicopter being flipped and destroyed. Airport manager Tom Jenkins said, "We've never seen anything like this. It's going to take months to repair." The tornado then tore through Levi Jackson Park, the Laurel County Fairgrounds, and Crooked Creek Golf Course, leaving debris scattered for tens of miles. In a home here, a 23-month-old named Parker was found buried in the rubble by his mother. He survived and has fully recovered from his injuries. The tornado then weakened ef2 and ef3 strength along East Laurel Road before abruptly weakening further, causing only ef0 damage as it crossed Kentucky 80 and Kentucky 488 before dissipating west of Lida at 11:56 p.m. Numerous emergency response teams were immediately sent out to retrieve survivors from the rubble. Even at night, the extreme damage was visible throughout the area. However, the real extent of the damage would not be visible until daybreak. In total, the tornado had claimed 19 lives, 17 in Laurel County, 1 in Pulaski, and 1 in Russell. At least 10 others were injured, with 3 listed as critical condition at the University of Kentucky Hospital. Notably, firefighter Major Roger Leslie Leatherman unfortunately was killed while responding to storm damage. In all, this became the deadliest tornado in eastern Kentucky on record. Damages in Laurel County alone reached $350 million. Power outages affected nearly 170,000 people statewide, and Laurel County declared a mass casualty incident. Satellite imagery revealed a massive scar across Daniel Boone National Forest and the surrounding residential areas of Somerset and London, Kentucky. Even with the immense devastation, the community's response was swift. The London Corban Airport became a 24-hour hub for relief supplies and debris removal. First Baptist Church in London provided shelter, cots, and supplies, with Pastor David Smith noting, "People are bringing clothes, toys, and hope." South Laurel High School gym served as a warming station. GoFundMe campaigns raised thousands, and organizations like the United Way and Habitat for Humanity committed to long-term recovery. Governor Beshear declared a state of an emergency and secured FEMA assistance. "Things are moving as fast as I've ever seen in the 14 weather-related disasters since I became governor," he said. The Lexington Fire Department deployed urban search and rescue teams and a mobile ambulance bus. High school students joined in recovery efforts, clearing debris and distributing supplies. Additionally, the tornado left an immense scar across Daniel Boone National Forest, disrupting ecosystems. Reforestation efforts are underway, with groups like the Sierra Club coordinating with state agencies. The Somerset-London tornado was the sixth ef4 or ef5 tornado in Kentucky in 50 years, following the 2021 Western Kentucky ef4 tornado. As of recording this video, the May 16, 2025 outbreak with 55 tornadoes was the most active severe weather day of 2025 so far. Kentucky's 42 tornadoes already in 2025 showcases the heightened activity in the Ohio Valley compared to 2024. Although the communities of eastern Kentucky were ravaged by the violent tornado, they fought back and remained resilient. The resilience and perseverance of the residents of London and Somerset are a true testament to the strength and resilience of Americans. This video is dedicated to everyone who was impacted by this tornado and the other violent and significant tornadoes that occurred on May 16th. Once again, I really want to say thank you guys for watching. These videos, like I mentioned last time, take a really long time for me to make.